Hi, Anna. So thank you for the question. Your question there was, imagine you're hired as a consultant for a team that implements Agile in a large bank. The company has no experience in Agile and processes are highly formalized. So how would I advise them to start? What's the step-by-step, the checklist? Right. So there are quite some assumptions in here. I would start with these three, right? I would assume that you have CEO involvement. Um, and then that will lead to having a big appetite, meaning they're not just doing something to check some checkbox of some feature list or to post that on their LinkedIn feed or something. No, it's something meaningful. Maybe their backs are against the wall. There's some market pressures that dictate that. So the kind of one leads to the other here, and the last one is they should be customer facing. It should be something external, not just some internal cost saving effort that they have. All right, and I'll get to that in a second. The the big challenge for a situation like this is that this bank will have to close the feedback loop as quickly as possible, right? So what do I assume has happened to such an organization is that they have grown and they have been able to serve the client repetitively well. And as they repeat this process, they improve how they execute this process, and that leads to let's say silos in a hierarchy or a hierarchy that is set up in a way that optimizes for cost efficiencies, for resource efficiency, and that could be that the market has moved now, and now that is no longer an advantage, is something that hinders their progress. Um, so this closing the feedback loop, it will be the big challenge for them to say, okay, how do we get out of this old structure to get in a way that we want to listen to our clients better and better, right? So to do this, to close this feedback loop, you have to go through existing silos and barriers and efficiencies, whatever it is in organization. So you need to have the mandate to be able to maneuver within this project, right? Like one way to illustrate this like this, that if you have a customer journey going from left to right, and you overlay that in the company hierarchy, so the customer will have to go through different departments, right? And then this, kind of the old structure here, it is efficient for kind of a cost optimization, but now to serve this customer, it might not be the most efficient. So that's why I say, if you look at, if we do it grassroots, meaning we are looking at helping these teams find a way to organize them in an agile way. This will probably be very difficult because almost doesn't matter how good the will of these people are and how they want to have this thing succeed. The challenge would be that they are in like a little seed in a ground and a pot that is probably or subconscious or unintentionally set up against their the incentives, right? They might have, let's say, HR practices that don't foster collaboration. Their bonus policies. I mean, there's an array of things that have probably grown that you have to break through to close this feedback loop as soon as possible. The other thing here would be, if we have director level involvement, uh, that could be somewhat interesting to start a conversation, but I'll start the conversation going up. Can we have total support to rethink this organization, right? So this would be the kind of the initial assumptions there. All right. So how would we go about this? I'll look at the roadmap, break it down into three parts. Right, there's going to be the kicking off of this agile change team. Then we're going to kick off the actual first pilot team, and then from there on, we'll look at scaling this agile initiative. Right, if you look at the agile team, we want to gather enough cross-functional senior managers plus an agile expert to put together a few things to lead this experiment, to removing impediments, probably the most important, and identifying improvements, right? And also this group will be leading okay, where do we want to go with this agile adoption? From there, we're going to kick off this pilot team. So this will be the proving grounds for this agile experience. And their experience, their learnings will guide the creation of this agile playbook. Let's call it the new operating model, right? And then from there on, we can start looking at scaling this agile initiative. So whenever it scales, we have to define this operating model. That's going to be probably coming from this agile playbook, and we need to understand the culture infrastructure necessary to foster agility, right? All right. So the first part, the kicking off a change team. Uh, the main goal of this team is to make sure that this group, the impacted group, is aligned, right? And then as soon as we find all the right people, we need to figure out who's leading this program, who are the members of this act, uh, and why. The why is going to be extremely important. Who, why we're doing this? What's the scope of what we're doing this? What does success look like? How do we measure the success? And who are our stakeholders? So this way, it's clear for this change team what is there's one single vision of what they're trying to do. All right, and then to kick off an agile pilot team, and I assume this is a team doing Scrum, right? And then you can do this in many other different frameworks, but Scrum is my assumption here would be the one that makes the most sense, right? Um, so we're gonna have four big steps. The first one is making sure we have our project chart or business case, whatever it is that they call it, to say the thing that we're gonna do, right? So we need to figure out the scope, define the metrics of success of this project, right? What are the key assumptions to test? Let's say we went through, let's say, some workshops to figure out what is it that our customers don't have, what are the challenges that they have, what are the questions, what are the hypotheses that we have as a team, what are the things that we want to tackle, right? So, so what are those assumptions that we want to test? And then we need to get this high-level business case. I want to do like this a very deep business case, but a high level. Say, okay, if we do this, we should see that, and something of that sort. And then look at the organization itself, look at the architecture, what are the applications that we're going to touch? Is it completely new? Probably don't need to look at this, but this probably exists within a whole organization. How does that impact that architecture? The team setup and training, quite straightforward. We want to make sure that we have a cross-functional set of skills. So we need to identify the skills, set up the team, make sure that we have all the right skills there. Kick off with a training, make sure that they are aligned in the terminology. But also, just as important is kicking off kind of a training for the people around them. So the stakeholders need to be aware of what is going to change, how this new project is going to be different than the projects in the past, right? From there on, we can start having the inception, the ideation, so workshops with the stakeholders and Scrum team to create this initial backlog. Um, do there are many different types of workshops you can do. The user story mapping, design thinking. So those together, openly and transparently, what are the things that we're going to build, right? And definitely align with operations. Say, look, this is what we plan to release, right? We want to make sure that we're paving the road here to success. Then from there on is just the development sprints. We talk here. Well, I would assume 2-week sprints, but this can be adjusted. And then the public sprint reviews. The sprint reviews should be public, meaning this is there is a part of doing the work, showing the work, but also marketing this new way of working. You need to gain some sort of traction culturally inside. Look, there's something different happening there. Things can change. Look, there's change happening, right? And we want to invite as many stakeholders as possible, be as public as possible, maybe even push some information out, right? All right. And then as soon as that's well and running, we need to look at how to scale this initiative. So we're going to get this, the Agile Change team is going to continue existing. But we're going to look at it, Agile Steerco, right? So if we look at the grounds of this agile experiment, let's call it the lab, or some companies call it the incubator, or it's just something different than the normal organization, right? And in there, you have the steer code kind of safeguarding uh, the entry of projects in there, right? One good idea is to kind of do a bit of a roadshow to people who want projects done, talk about the benefits of Agile, how this can help, or some of the success stories of the pilot project, and say, if you want this, this is our selection criteria. If you want this, apply for it now. So you create a pull situation, or a push situation, not going to help you in the long run, right? So this steerco, so made up of senior members across different departments, they're evaluating, continuously evaluation, the potential of Agile for the organization to decide which projects, and very importantly, they're going to be removing the lab's impediments, right? And then also sharing the learnings throughout. So is one, making sure that this is running smoothly. Two is that it's being marketed towards the organization, right? All right, and then the Agile change team here is going to be the owner of this improvement backlog. So, as the teams go through the sprints down here, they're going to be escalating or highlighting different impediments, and this Agile change team is pulling these impediments into potential improvements for the lab, right? Either they were executed themselves, or use the steer code to unblock these things. But this is the main tool that the Agile change team will have, this improvement backlog, right? And then they're going to have to be working with this team here to build this culture, right? And also ensuring that it's not only a culture, but the infrastructure, all the tools are there in place, all the environment, the technical environment is in place in order to get this feedback loop as short as possible. And all of those learnings go into this playbook. This playbook will be used to, here are the lessons we learn, a bit of ideas, tools, techniques, case studies. Everything goes into this playbook. To its whole goal is to help new projects kicking off to get quicker from zero to going. Right, and then if you look at the timelining, a timeline and the kind of overview of it all. This is how I would see it, right? There is a kickoff part. It takes about 2 to 6 weeks, figure out who is, where is our act team, what is our vision, and kind of putting that together intermittently. I list here my head is like 2 to 10 coaching days that we're going to be doing workshops, kicking off, having meetings, pitching to different people to kick this off, right? As soon as we get to the kickoff, the pilot team, I think this will probably take about 12 to 24 weeks. It depends on the organization, how much. It depends on each organization, right? And the work here for the ACT team will be supporting the pilot project. So most of the effort will be on this side here, right? Is doing that workflow we're talking about there, kicking off a team, the project charter, the team setup, setting up the backlog, doing the sprints, and then from here, learning. So supporting the pilot, learning from this, and already preparing. Okay, how would we scale this? Right, we start working at the tail. After this has started off, start looking at how to scale this, and then whenever we get to the scaling part is. This can be, let's say, as long as you want, but there is probably a good amount of work here in the scaling preparation, in the operating model. Like, okay, do we have a specific training, onboarding steps that we're going to take these teams on? So then we can start rolling out the teams. Like each team would take the focus of the, let's say, ACT team or the coaching team for about 2 to 4 months. Let's imagine you start, the ACT team takes 2 more teams in and starts doing the same effort here to kick them off. And then you you're tracking how they're going. You're learning from there. You're closing the cycle here. How we are learning this, and then as you're learning this, you're rolling out more and more teams. Um, And hopefully at this point you start getting internal champions become coaches themselves. They have gone through this experience, they know how to do it, they can coach other people, they are contributing, the internal people contributing directly to this operating model and growing this initiative. It's, the initiative is growing roots within the organization. It's not something let's say mostly owned by the outside. And then here is something we do is that we want to track the progress and the maturity of these different teams. A sort of self-assessment. They understand, where do I stand? After I've gone through all of this, what else should I improve? How do other teams get to a maturity? Also as a manager, I want to see all these different teams. Where do I focus my effort? Which team has the lowest level of maturity? How can I help them grow? What are some of the things that a mature team should be doing? What kind of habits do they have? For example, we have a task board. We pick up the highest priority item. We help each other. We reduce work in progress. So there's a whole maturity assessment you can create to have an open conversation with the teams so that they know what they could improve on. And also as a manager, as an organization, I know which team I should help and how I should help them, right? So, and this is high level, the how I would look at kicking off a team there. I would assume quite a few things: top level support, a good call to action, and then we can start, kicking off this transformation, kicking off a pilot team, and start scaling there.